You are listening to the Bring Joy Forward podcast. Conversations to explore, heal, and grow. You can find us on bringjoyforward.com and join us in our community group on Facebook. We now take you to the episode. Thank you for joining us. Hello, and welcome to our episode of the Bring Joy Forward podcast. I am Shannon Dias with Imagine If.
I am Ramona Crabtree-Falkner with Authentic Life Journey.
And I am Shannon Brown with Open Door Healing.
And we are going to talk today about the very simple, we think, but maybe sometimes complicated concept of compromise versus adjustment, and what that means, and how we approach it. And we're actually we're having this conversation today about this because we were kind of like, oh, yeah, okay, let's talk about it. This seems pretty good. So the general idea, I think, that we were kind of talking about before we started hitting that record button is that compromise is something where two people are having to make changes and come together and work on things together. And adjustment is something that you do yourself and you take ownership of. So I thought I'd have Shannon start us out, just because this kind of all spawned from something that happened this morning.
That's right. During morning journaling with Marcia at Bring Joy Forward, it was the prompt for today about compromise and adjustment. And I was like, wow, I just really had never thought about it. You know, we do these almost without even thinking about it most of the time, you know, compromising with this little thing and then adjusting to this. But so to really write about it just brought a lot to light for me. So to me, compromise is, you know, again, you're with another person or another group, and each participant, it has to give up something in order to come to a what's best for the group. Okay, let's say you might have some great ideas and they have some great ideas. You don't like theirs. They don't really think that yours will work. And so you work it out. You come to a compromise of what is best for the group or for the both of you, right? And so you're having to give up something that you brought to the table. Or an adjustment, to me, is a more self-aware. Like a situation has happened and you're like, well, okay, this doesn't feel good. So what is it that I need to do? What adjustments do I need? What information do I need so that I can make adjustments so that A, this doesn't happen again, and B, I feel better and more aligned. So that's what came out of my journaling with this morning. And it was just such an awareness. I mean, we do it constantly all day long. You know,
Yep.
When we're driving, you have to make compromises. The guy that cuts in front of you, you have to compromise to back up. You know, you're not going to go that same speed, and just little things like that. But just noticing, I think, it just brought an awareness, a new awareness to me that this is something that I constantly do. And I would rather make more adjustments than compromises.
Yeah. It's funny because I use the word acquiesce because I feel like that was an awareness that I had, that I was doing that all the time because I'm just like, oh yeah, sure, that's fine. That's fine. So I just would acquiesce. Yeah, no big deal. It's not a huge thing for me. So I will compromise in this way, and kind of give this up. And yeah, I started taking that energy back. Well, is this really a place where I want to acquiesce and I want to give that up? I also kind of started modifying my wording in it too. So, give up feels bad, right? When you say I'm going to give up, like that's, that doesn't feel good. So I release all the time. My, recent word that I've been working with for the past few months has been shed. And it's beautiful. And I've been shedding, and as I'm shedding, new skin is growing, right? So it's that ownership of the energy, I feel like, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Ramona, did you have?
I feel that my perception on this comes from the yogic perspective of flexibility. Because oftentimes when someone comes into yoga and they say, oh, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible. Well, flexibility isn't just physical. It's mental flexibility. It's emotional flexibility. It's the ability to evaluate a situation and observe for yourself what you need in order for it to be in alignment for you, or if you need to walk away. So for me, yes, I agree. Compromise is two parties coming together, having a discussion, evaluating how they can work with one another. I feel that even in that situation, I still have to apply flexibility. I have to be willing to be flexible with the person that I'm engaging with. Now, there are other instances where it's like, okay, I'm having a situation here and I need to adjust my expectations. I need to adjust my approach. I need to be observant of this other person and recognizing where they are. So it's showing up with someone where they're at versus expecting them to be where I am at. And so for me, that's where I think that adjustment applies, is because there's two options there. There's either one, peace out.
Right. Yeah.
This isn't for me. Or two, there is, okay, I want to be here. I know I need to be here, or I'm supposed to be here. Like for me, there's a couple of different variations there that decide whether or not I'm gonna stay and work the edge of the experience and invite flexibility. And sometimes I can be pretty inflexible. so also it's recognizing, is this a time for flexibility, or is this a time for someone else to adjust? So I think there's a lot of factors there that I'm kind of looking at.
Yeah.
Oh, there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this. And I think that it's case by case, right? So like I didn't want to make some adjustments with a certain scenario that I was in over the last year. And my inflexibility, I think, also caused me a bit of grief. So sometimes we don't adjust because we're learning something. So I think it's an interesting, juxtaposition. Like where do we sit in all of those opportunities?
Well,
Yeah.
and also,
That's what.
yeah. Go ahead, Shannon.
No, I was just going to just reiterate that whole compromise versus adjustment. Again, it sounds so simple, but it's really not. So it's just how you're looking at the energy of it. Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going.
So just with talking about this, a trigger has come up from childhood where the compromise can also be one-sided. I mean, I think of my mother, and she pretty much like compromised the whole relationship, like with my dad. Well, we're going to be quiet so it won't upset him. We're going to do this so it won't upset him. And so she was constantly compromising. And so now, and I did that for a long time. Yeah, whatever. I was pretty much like a goody two shoes. And then the big change came, and I was like, oh, hell no. Kind of got my power back. Like, wait a minute. And so when I am in situations where I am asked to compromise, that little power comes up and says, well, wait a minute. Are you giving away power? Because I watched that happen during my whole childhood. And so I think that's also wonderful shadow work, where, and I do have to say I'm very blessed with a relationship with a partner that we do compromise a lot, because we both want the best for what each other. And we both,
Mhm.
and of course, neither one of us are like to have confrontations just because of the childhoods that we had. And that's all it was, all our childhood. So, but we genuinely want what is best for each other. And we will, and so again, we're able to compromise on things. And I don't feel like I'm ever giving anything away when I'm doing that. Oh, okay, you want to go here? I really wanted baby back ribs, but if you want to go and have the Chinese food, that's fine. I mean, that's not a huge compromise, but at the same time, it is one, and at the same time, well, no, you wanted baby back ribs. And then 30 minutes later, we're somewhere totally different,
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's where that flexibility comes in, right? Like, because
yeah.
it's all about how you feel about the decision that you're making in that moment. And I would venture to say that a lot of what your childhood was and your mom's responses are trauma responses. That's
Yes.
a lot of that quick, you know, I'm doing this particular action to avoid something problematic that is going to happen later. So you're making your choices based on that fear response, as opposed to making it from a place of stability and a place of love. And so I think that's where, for me, when you first posed this, the idea, I read it and it was immediately like, oh yeah, there's so many ways to go with this, right? Because that when you say compromise, even the word compromise can sound, ugh, like I have to compromise. But if you're in a good place and it's a healthy relationship that you're in, compromise is not a big deal. Like you said, you're making all those little minor micro compromises, as you're going through your day, but it's not affecting you in a way that that is negative or causing harm in any way, or where you're reacting to it in a way that makes you uncomfortable. Those are, those are completely different situations. And, kind of like what Ramona was talking about, where you're making a choice to say, I'm not compromising in this. I am standing in my choices, and I'm going to deal with the consequences of that, and sometimes those consequences mean, I'm not going to feel good for a little while, but like whatever this is bringing up, it's something that I need to look at.
Mhm.
Uh, and I know that, Shannon talks all the time about the, not really, she doesn't like her shadow work. Um, but I've I work pretty much in that light and shadow all the time. So I think I see it a little bit differently, where I've kind of become friends with that part of me,
Yeah.
um, a little bit more, oh, Ramona's making a face.
I'm
You just
not
had a
making a face at
revelation?
you. Well, I had a little nudge that came through. So I'm curious if we could invite our community to shift the word from compromise to co-create.
Ooh, see,
Yeah,
now I love
yeah,
that. That's so much
yeah.
better. That
Which is
feels,
what we use when
yes.
we're working together,
Right.
and anytime I do it, go out into the world or whatever, same
Yeah.
thing, it's co-create. Yeah,
Mhm.
so
So if we
yeah.
could shift the mindset and the perception from, oh, I have to compromise to be with this situation, into, I'm actively choosing to co-create with this human being. And
Yep.
so whatever it is that we're going to create together is going to be based out of a mutual respect and love for one another.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I wonder if that might be an interesting exploration for our audience to take for themselves, is when you're feeling that, because we brought up the hardness of that word,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
So compromise
yeah.
feels really like, "Ugh,
Ick.
that doesn't feel
Yeah.
good." And so then it becomes, well, how can we invite it to soften? How can we bring that edge off? And for me, anyone that I'm doing anything with, whether it's my spouse, whether it's my relationship with my kid and daughter-in-law, and you know family members, and so on and so forth, it it's I'm choosing to create with them. So when we recognize that, so here's the interesting thing that was popping into my so have you ever had that person that you were working with that wanted to run the show?
Oh, wait, I've been that person.
I think we've all been and received on that end, for
Right.
sure.
So the reality is that when I started using the word co-create, it was to take me out of the role of it's mine. And when we're co-creating with someone else, we're willing to listen to different ideas and concepts and bring different things online to bring harmony and balance to the experience. So, Shannon, I can recognize also the going out to dinner thing, like that. It's real easy for me to be like, whatever. I will say this though, I have realized that whatever is me not wanting to make a choice, because if I'm caring for my body and I want to make a good choice, then I have to be willing to say, I would like to go have this because this is what's best for me. Or flip it to the other side of that coin. I really would enjoy having this thing because I'm craving it. Like that concept of us taking ownership of what our wants and needs are is also part of that co-creation. It's if we keep our mouth closed and we don't express what we want, then are we co-creating?
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's it, because every interaction that we're having, we're co-creating, or we're not. And then you have to have an awareness that this isn't an equal co-creation.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very one-sided situation. And then you have to, once you have that awareness, you have to take ownership of your part in that. And maybe you're the one that's doing all the creating, I mean, it could be either way, but yeah, if you're, so we're inviting you to be aware of how these relationships and interactions that you're having, even the micro ones of, we mentioned traffic moving and everything else. How are you going, through that? Be aware of that, and take ownership of your part in that, and, do it in a loving way where you're co-creating and readjust your vocabulary a little bit so you can feel good about it. Because that's ultimately it,
exactly. Right? Yeah. And so adjustments and co-creation, I think, are part of one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, this has been fun. I like the simple but yet complicated. I love it. We appreciate you being with us on this episode of Bring Joy Forward. We invite you to listen along and join us on our Facebook group and be in community with us. We appreciate you, and thanks for listening. You have been listening to the Bring Joy Forward podcast. Conversations to explore, heal, and grow. You can find us at bringjoyforward.com, and we'd love to have you join us in our community Facebook group. Thank you for listening.